Greetings, Earthlings! For today's lesson, we will be learning about the solar system, which consists of the Sun, the star at the center of our solar system, and the 8 planets which orbit around it. And the goal of this lesson is to focus on the different size and scale of the planets in our solar system. As you can see here in this little image, we have one of our smallest planets, Mercury, way down here in the bottom left. And then some of our larger planets, such as Jupiter and Saturn, off here to the right. And just at this initial glance, you can notice that there is a significant difference in the sizes of these planets. And we'll also be learning a bit about the distances between these planets, how far apart they are from each other, and how far they are from the Sun. So one of the tools or resources we'll be using for this lesson will be this Prezi that I have created about the solar system. As you proceed through the Prezi, you'll find information about each of the 8 planets. It will give you information such as the radius of the planet to give you an idea of its size, as well as the planet's distance from the Sun. The other resource you'll be using will be this Google Sheets document, which has been prepared for you. And as you progress through the Prezi, you'll want to record the information for each planet in the corresponding columns. So, for example, as we looked at Mercury, you learned the radius in kilometers. You would enter that number in this box here. You can also then convert the radius to diameter simply by doubling it. These pink columns here we will worry about in just a moment, but that's where we're going to convert the data to a smaller scale to use for our in-class project. And in this column here, you'll also want to record the distance from the Sun, which is also information that you will find in the Prezi. So just to show you a quick example, here we see planet Mercury and the corresponding column of radius. That information has been entered here. We doubled that to convert it to the diameter. And we also input the distance from the Sun. Now I'm going to explain how we will then use the data that we've collected from the Prezi for the project that we will be doing tomorrow in class. So everyone will get a piece of ribbon, and we'll begin by marking a line. This line is going to represent basically the Sun's location at the center of the solar system, where all the planets will be orbiting around. So as we continue on, we'll keep in mind that this first line here represents the Sun, the center of the solar system, so that'll be the starting point from where we will make our measurements. Using the data from the Planet Data worksheet that we collected from the Prezi, you will measure the converted distance to mark the zone where the first planet would potentially be located, or the zone of that planet's orbit. So our first line here would represent the distance that Mercury is from the Sun. Then, using the measurements for the size, the radius and diameter of that planet, you will measure and mark the zone, the space within which that planet would fall, the space where that planet would exist, or the zone where that planet would orbit around the Sun. So, this first line represents our Sun. This gap in between would represent the distance between the Sun and the planet. And then these next 2 lines would represent the zone within which the planet would fall. And again, here's just a more clear example of our starting line being the Sun. This is the distance between the Sun and the planet. And then this zone here would represent the space, the planet's orbiting zone. As you continue along, you will repeat this process with the measurements for each of the planets. So again, starting from your Sun, you would measure the distance to the first planet Mercury. Then going back to this Sun line, you would measure the distance from the Sun to the next planet, Venus. And you would mark that planet and its corresponding size of radius or diameter here. And you would repeat that process for Earth and Mars and so on and so forth, so that eventually you'll end up with a ribbon which marks to scale the distance of the Sun to each planet, as well as the size of each planet. Once all measurements and markings have been made on the ribbon, you should have a somewhat good representation at a reduced scale of the size, distance of the planets and other objects in our solar system. And then during our class activity tomorrow, we will be able to compare our results and our data, and hopefully, if work's done correctly, we will have a fairly similar representation of the planet's distances and sizes, and we'll use these materials to then create further representation of the planet's orbit around the sun.